Welcome to This Week in Sim Racing, November 5th, 2011 edition. I'm Darren Ganji, and This Week in Sim Racing is sponsored by iRacing.com. And you can check out their new build, which was just released this week, and get 3 months for the price of one by clicking on any of the iRacing banners you see at our website. So, speaking of iRacing, first up on the show, lots going on in the last few weeks with iRacing. Starting with iRacing TV, episode 11 is now up and available, and we have it and all the other iRacing TV episodes available at our site in our iRacing section. In it, they have some interviews and discuss some of the new content that has just become available in the final build of 2011. And speaking of that new build, it includes Oulton Park and Kentucky, which are two new tracks. Oulton Park being a road course and Kentucky being for the oval guys. Some other additions in this build include changes to multi-class racing, where now you only need to own the car that you are driving versus owning all of the cars. So that way, if you wanted to race, let's say in this series and in the Corvette only, you don't have to buy the Acura or the Ford GT to compete. In the heart of the sim, the new tire model has been updated in the cars that originally got it, and now more cars have got it as well. Most cars on the oval side have it. Now with the addition of the Legends, Street Stock, and Late model, which adds to the Truck, Nationwide, and Sprint Cup cars that already have it. And on the road side, cars that got the new tire model are the MX-5 Spec Racer and Corvette C6R, and they joined the Skippy, Ford GT, and Acura LMP that got the new tire model last time around. Besides adding the new tire model to the cars I just mentioned, the original cars have also been updated. So if you've got some setups that you've built for that new tire model on those original cars, you may need to do some tweaking, or you may need to start from scratch. They're recommending starting with the baseline, so there's been some changes made to that new tire model. Lots of other additions in this new build, and you can see them all at our forum in our iRacing section. We've got the entire build list, or new build list, or build notes up for you guys to check out. Last but definitely not least, we have an exclusive announcement here and some images of a new car that's going to be added to the iRacing fleet. Can we get a drum roll, please? One of my favorites from 1988 and the Title by Papyrus Grand Prix Legends, the Lotus 49. Not only was it a car to beat in that era, it was a car to beat back when we raced it online on V-Rock. And I'm sure some of you old schoolers out there remember V-Rock. On its debut in the 1967 Grand Prix of Holland, the Lotus 49 scored a famous double as Graham Hill captured the pole and Jim Clark won the race. The design went on to 11 more Formula One wins and took Hill to the 1968 World Championship. iRacing got access to the very Lotus 49 that Clark drove to that historic victory in 1967. The car is currently owned by vintage racer Chris McAllister of Indianapolis, who offered iRacing complete access to Clark's car during the modeling process. So the iRacing engineers will start measuring the Lotus very soon for all of us to enjoy in the latter half of 2012. Next up, we have some news from Simbin, and they have basically repackaged Race 07 again. So this time around, they have added all of the expansion packs that were released this year, and they're calling it Race Injection. And it's going to include the 2010 WTCC and STCC season, some historic cars, that hill climb that we were talking about that we love so much, and that Formula Race Room car. The pack will include 83 car models with 450 liveries that can be raced on over 40 different tracks with 60 layouts. Race Injection will be available in most European countries on November 18th, and other countries will get it early in 2012. Matter of fact, Virtual R has reported that it's going to be available for €29.99 on Amazon, so you can check it out there. More news on the ISI engine. Guys at Ritza Studios, we mentioned them in the last show, they keep cranking out new content for their debut title, Game Stock Car, which, by the way, we had some technical difficulties in our review. It actually was done about a week ago, but we had to go and do some fine-tuning on our edit, but that should be up by the time you watch this. Anyway, the guys at Ritza have released their Formula Ritza and now Formula 3 machines to their growing stable of cars. That, with the added tracks that they've done, is making it one of the ISI titles to get. Head over to GameStockCar.com.br to check out the base title. And to get all the mods for that title, head on over to VirtualR.net. And speaking of Virtual R, don't know if you've checked it out lately, but they've got a new facelift. The redesign is more visually stimulating with larger images on the homepage and plenty of great sim racing news. So check out Virtual R at virtualr.net. And that's going to wrap up the first half of This Week in Sim Racing. Make sure to stay tuned for the second half. We've got lots more sim racing news and the Tamiya Sim Rig of the Week.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing. Puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
Welcome back to the November 5th edition of This Week in Sim Racing. And first up on the second half of the show, we've got the Sim Rig of the Week sponsored by Tamiya USA. To get the highest quality RC and model vehicles in the world, head on over to TamiyaUSA.com. So today's Rig of the Week comes to you from Sydney, Australia, a guy named Mike Korolev. And Mike is a 47-year-old kid at heart, like all of us are, that is a timber floor installer. And he's been a lifelong racing fan and found sim racing back in 2007 and has been an addict ever since. First with GTR Against the AI and then GTR2 Online with the Australian Sim Racing Group. With a background in driver training, he designed his rig for ergonomics and being able to run for hours at a time. Having plenty of woodworking tools, he built his rig from MDF and finished it off with black paint and a racing seat. He runs an Intel i7 computer with dual water-cooled NVIDIA 480s running triple screens. Plans for the rig include Fanatec's new CSR Elite, but in the meantime, he's got his trusty G25 handling the steering inputs. To handle the pedal inputs, he's using a F1 set of CST pedals. Other goodies include a butt kicker and this very cool looking custom button box. We'd like to thank Mike for sharing his rig with us because actually we found it at thewayiplay.com. You can go check them out. They got lots of cool rigs there. But Sean had contacted him. Mike sent us tons of pictures and thanks for sharing your rig with us, Mike. Next up on the show, I just mentioned the CSR Elite. Mike wants to get one. Well, we got a poll going at our site where we're going to pick 3 beta testers from a group of guys that submitted applications. And a little history on this, the community members over at GT Planet started a similar poll or thread to find the best people to represent their community to test the new CSR Elite for Fanatec. So Thomas at Fanatec liked the idea so much, we decided to do one here at our forums and at the iRacing forums. Over 65 sim racers applied at both sites to review and test that new wheel. If you want to join in on the voting and pick 6 beta testers to try out that wheel, we got the links in our description here of the show. Next up, ISI just announced in an interview the pricing structure for R-Factor 2. In the USA, R-Factor 2 will sell for $43.99. This is going to allow unlimited access to single player and a mod development mode. It's also going to include 1-year access to an online account. For additional 1-year access to the online account, it's going to be $12.99. For those that don't want to run online, you're still going to be able to update your sim and get all the mods and all that. The open beta is going to begin soon and they plan to release an early content limited version for mod makers to provide feedback on the system. Since it's an open beta, that means any of you guys can participate out there and you'll be required to make a full purchase. They're planning to give those who take part in the open beta 18 months of online access with that purchase, rather than the 12 months which will come after the open beta. So that's very interesting pricing news there from the ISI guys, and as soon as we hear more, haven't heard a release date yet or when that open beta is going to start, but when we do, we'll let you guys know. And last up on this week's show, our good friend Alan Boyston at Team VVV got to go visit the guys at Slightly Mad Studios and try cars on a D-Box motion platform. He got to drive an open wheeler and a GT car, and it looks pretty impressive. And by the way, we got our copy, our press media copy of Cars out there, and there was some people saying, why don't you guys just buy it and contribute? And you know what, the investment wasn't the problem or the issue. It was that we honestly don't have time to contribute to the development. As much as we'd love to, we're just involved in so many other things that we just wouldn't be able to devote any time to it. So our contribution is reporting on it here on the show. Hopefully we can get more people involved that way and make it a better sim for all of us. So that's going to wrap up this week's show. Hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to check out our forums at InsideSimRacing.tv. Join in on that poll to vote on that Elite. Join in on all the conversations we got going there, and just say hi. For everyone behind the scenes here at Inside Sim Racing, I'm Darren Ganji. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next time.